So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our first presenter, Olivia McShay from PV Complete, and let you kick things off. Olivia?
Yeah, thanks, John. Um, just a little bit of an agenda here. Our three speakers are from PV Complete, Engage, and Extensible Energy, and a little bit about each of us. I'm Olivia McShay. I'm head of sales and marketing here at PV Complete. And basically, we're going over the design portion of how you can address your commercial projects and better create, detail-oriented bids for your customers in a faster, more efficient way. A little bit about PV Complete. We are located and headquartered in Oakland, California. We've been incorporated since 2015, and we make an entire platform of tools for sales through engineering, all solar professionals to address their residential, commercial, and utility scale design problems for solar PV. Specifically, our platform really uses a cloud-based method of storing bill of materials, equipment database, project modeling, and energy modeling in the cloud, so it can actually be shared across multiple different tools and platforms. Specifically, PV Sketch, which is a sales web-based PV tool, and PV CAD, which is a CAD-based engineering tools. And by storing all of that project information in cloud, we can actually have those different platforms communicate together so you can have seamless transition from one to the other. Across all of our tools and feature sets that you'll see are automated design, automated energy modeling, versioning between different projects, like I mentioned earlier, stored equipment database information, bill of materials, and automation. And those are kind of the core features of our entire platform. The first thing I want to talk about is PV Sketch, and specifically how PV Sketch can work for your commercial projects. PV Sketch, like I said, is web-based. It is a sales-oriented tool, and it provides layouts. It allows you to even order design services from our company. It provides energy modeling and cost savings information. And this is just a more specific line-by-line feature list in PV Sketch. More importantly, though, is what can it do for your commercial projects? So the first thing is, because it's web-based, you're able to assess the viability of commercial sites instantly and create layouts instantly. So we import imagery for you from Google, and you can create manufacturer-specific layouts to assess system size and production instantly for that site without having to do a site visit or do too much time. You're able to qualify and differentiate your design with those manufacturers. So we're not just plopping a generic model on your roof or your site plan. It's actually manufacturer specific. So that's really going to define your bid and make your bid information that more accurate, that everything's able to be manufacturer specific, and all of that information is there at your fingertips directly in our application. And lastly, it's a seamless transfer from sales to engineering. So, I'll talk more about this later, but you're able to actually export that design from your sales team directly into engineering. So it saves a lot of time transitioning between departments and making sure that multiple hands can touch the same thing without having to re-render information or pieces of that design. And right here, this is just a really quick 2-minute video to really show you how all these things can happen. So here we're inputting an address and we're pulling that map from Google Maps. We're able to trace out any parts of our site plan. So roofs, obstructions, it shows you dimensions for all of these things as well. So even if you have real-time dimensions, you can compare and make sure that they're all accurate. And as you can see here, we're actually able to map shadow as well. So again, assessing that site instantly, analyzing shade patterns instantly for you, so you can actually create a really efficient and nuanced layout for your customer in seconds. Last few obstructions here, just copying those across. And then when we select generate design, it's actually going to fill the site plan again with all manufacturer specific equipment. So this isn't generic, this is specific. And at the bottom, you can see total production, system size, and modules. Here I'm creating another version of it so you can compare and contrast different iterations within minutes. And then once you're happy with that layout, we can do a little bit of cost savings analysis. So right at the beginning, before you really get your hands too dirty, you can see how much the system is going to produce, how much it's going to save you. And we do this by partnering with GenAbility, who gives us an entire database of rate structures, choosing a finance option, and then just really some simplified numbers that really help you assess for yourself and for your customer the viability of that project. And the end output of PV Sketch is a customer-facing proposal, really clean, really simple, condensing all of that project information you've just gathered into one space. So again, site-specific, product-specific, and really nuancing the information it's providing. And so that's PV Sketch. And what that leads into is the engineering side of things. So we can obviously, you know, if you want to just go that sales route, you can stop right there. But another thing that we can offer for commercial designs is a more nuanced CAD proposal. And this can really heighten your bid for these projects as well. So you can see here we have a similar feature set to PV Sketch. Additionally, we can also provide electrical calcs and reports, and we can also provide a full bill of materials. And these are things that are really going to help your bid and your proposal stand out against other competitors. Again, a full feature list for PVCAD. And specifically what PVCAD adds to this whole thing is automating a familiar process for your engineers. So your engineers are likely already in AutoCAD having to render these projects top to finish. The larger this commercial project gets, the more time that takes. We're taking that familiar process and automating it for them, so it makes it more straightforward, it makes it faster, it keeps the level of accuracy, and it, in many cases, increases the level of accuracy for those designs. As I mentioned before, you're able to present a competitive bid through precise design and bill of materials. So because it's all manufacturer specific and we're actually drawing conductors and single line diagrams, we can give you a full bill of materials that even includes balance of systems. So you can actually really tighten in that bid based on product costs and things like that. So giving you more information up front about what that project's going to require, so you can really hone in on the bid itself and provide more information to your customers too. And then again, seamless transfer of knowledge from sales to engineering. Being able to give hand off an already created design to your engineers is just huge, because they don't have to re-render anything in the CAD space. It's all there for them, and it makes that transfer of information from sales to engineering really simple as well. So there's no missing links or gaps. And right here, we're just going to pick off right where we left off with that same design. So I'm copying a link here in CAD, and I'm going to paste it directly into PVCAD, or copying it from PV Sketch, pasting it into PVCAD, and it's importing my entire design for me. And this is really a data-rich import. So it knows exactly what module I'm using. It knows exactly how tall my roof is, and allows us just to jump straight into the electrical portion of the design, so you don't have to render anything. Huge time saver. So right here, I'm just placing manufacturer-specific inverters. And then we're going to start to string the whole design. And there's a few different ways we can do this. You know, we have auto, which kind of guesses the best direction. We have directional if you're working in tables and you just want everything strung in strings of 10 in block format. It will do large sites like that instantly for you. And then as you can see here, we have manual as well. So if you have a more complicated roof with obstructions, you can really define exactly where you want those strings to run simply, and that makes it fast and easy with those different stringing options. Once everything is strung, it's all going to be connected into our inverters and AC panel that I placed here. And our single line diagram is actually looking at this wiring to create that automated single line diagram for you. So you don't have to then secondarily wire your system and create the single line. We're automating that portion for you. You can see here, I'm just finishing up drawing the conductors into the inverters. And then right at the top, there's a big button that says single line diagram. Saving the design, selecting that button, and there's the single line diagram. So these are all CAD blocks. They're highly customizable. We provide all of the conductor measurements that you can then actually view in this calc set. So we give ampacity, voltage drop, all of the calculations are there instantly. Here's the bill of materials like I was talking about, our balance of systems that actually gives full conductor lengths as well. There's our racking bill of materials. So instant, right at your fingertips, highly customizable, really data rich. And then this is just the final product in Paperspace. This is really familiar, all familiar to AutoCAD. We have templates that have smart fields, so it's really easy to format and finish off that design in a really completed, clean looking way in the CAD space. And so that's kind of start to finish PV Sketch to PV CAD. And I think the real takeaway here is that we're giving you tools to handle these large scale projects with a lot of data. And that's really going to help your bid stand apart. And it's going to give you more information about what that project is out the outset rather than later. And especially for commercial projects where things can get really complicated really quickly, having tools that provide those things for you automatically can be a real game changer, both at the beginning levels of figuring out what projects to move forward with and at the later level of winning those bids with customers because you're able to provide more information and nuanced bids. All of our products, you can find more information on our website, www.pvcomplete.com. And we do have a free PV Sketch account and a free 30-day trial. So if either of those products sound like it's something that would really alleviate pain points for your commercial projects and help with that design process and bid process, you can give them a try there. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jeff at eGauge.
Thank you, Olivia. That's some very robust software. It's some great stuff. What I'm going to show you now is how you can take that design and add some personalization to it and show your customers more about how your existing customers can see some real life examples of your installations. Just a little bit about eGauge. We've been around since 2008. We're manufactured in Boulder, Colorado. We have about 60,000 meters sold worldwide. And some of the defining characteristics of our meter is that you can do consumption and production monitoring at the same time. We are inverter agnostic and revenue grade, and that's very important because a lot of inverter companies change or they're purchased. It's part of that whole solar coaster where the equipment lines are ever changing. And when you're using eGauge, the equipment that you're metering will always be accessible to you. And also we have no monthly fees to access the data. So that allows you to bring this data into other platforms like John's, or allow you to allot some of your expenses to the other subscription services that are available to you without having to worry about accessing or paying for that data. So what I'd like to do first is show you how you can use our portfolio management tool to give your customers some real life examples of systems that you've installed. We call this portfolio management tool our eGuard portfolio management. And basically you can link all of your existing sites right on this page, where you can view all of your information from one very concise page. You can see here where it will list all of your site names. You can add groups if you would like to put them into similar areas like 100 to 200 kilowatt systems, 200 to 400, etc., and have that easily accessible. You can see here whether they're online or offline right at that moment. And then you can also see what your typical production is. And this is nice here because you can show your customer or your prospect what they're going to expect in their production. And you can see since midnight, last 24 hours, last week. And you could also change that. And you could look at average watts, average power, or you can look at total kilowatt hours. Great way to add some credibility to your existing sites, show your customer that you have been around for quite some time, and basically assure them that you're not one of those companies that just comes in, installs, and then leaves town. Along with this tool, you can have access to a site mapping tool where you can show your customer what other sites in that general area that you have installed. And at each one of these eGauge drops, you can then pull up some photos of that installation, give you a little bit of information on it. this is nice because when you're talking with your customer and you've done the PV Complete work, you have an idea of what that system is going to look like from the design standpoint. You can find a system that is very similar to that. Show the customer some pictures of that. You can compare this final installation picture with the PV Complete design phase, which will then highlight how accurate you are doing your design. There's not a lot of changes, or if there are changes, you can explain to the customer why those changes happened, and really make it a more personal experience for that customer. And then once you're in here, if you click on one of these teardrops, it will bring you to that page's specific web page. And in this web page, you can view what's actually happening at that system. This is what we call just the user interface, and all of your customers can have access to this if you allow them to have access. And you could also use this to help manage your systems. In this case, the PV system is shown in green, and shaded green is where you are overproducing. White is where you're covering the total load, and red is where you are getting energy from the grid. For this specific system, they are producing about half of the energy that they're consuming, and you can see that in this green box up here. It's a pretty good system, and this is all the room that they had on that roof. But what this allows you to do is it can show your customer a specific example of what to expect. And when you set these expectations accurately with your customer, in the end, they're going to be very happy with what they get out of that system and how that return on investment looks. With that data that you can get using the eGauge, you can design the system specifically to show what they're going to get out of that PV system. Do they want to try to do a net zero installation where they're going to cover all of this consumption, or do they just want to cover parts of it? And this is where you can really dive into the return on investment of that system. You're going to know from PV Complete how many panels you can put on that roof, what size system you can install. With eGauge and looking at real data, you can decide what's going to give your customer the best ROI, and you'll also be able to give your customer some options. In this case, we're showing this dark red line is the total consumption at this commercial property. And then these smaller, thinner red lines are individual loads at this building. Here you can see that their daytime peak load is up around 34 kilowatts, and their nighttime base load, where they're always using this much power no matter what, is about 16 kilowatts. When you're designing the system, you can decide whether you want to cover just the peak, where this is probably going to provide the most benefit as far as an ROI standpoint, because you're covering the most expensive energy. And you can customize this depending on what utility you're in, to put in examples of what the actual cost is for these different tiers as well. So in this case, if they only had room for a small system, you can show them that it's going to cover their most expensive energy. If you wanted to cover their daytime base load, you would then need to go to a system that's about 10 kilowatts. And again, this can be any size. It's just depending on the property that you're taking a look at. And then if you wanted to cover even more, this would cover their total daytime load. You would go up to about a 22 kilowatt system. Each time you do this, you can then reference your PV Complete design and show them exactly where these panels might be and what the layout will look when those are covered. If they do want to go net zero, you're going to have to put in a pretty good size system for that load. Here, that would be a 40 kilowatt system, and that will cover all of their peaks and it will also provide enough overproduction, which is shown above that red line, to cover their nighttime loans, which is shown as this white area in the graph. These are all typical tools that customers can use to provide credibility to their customer. Another big thing right now is to show your customer, or to maintain your system properly, is to look at the fault codes. With eGauge, you can pull in any of the SunSpec certified inverters, have those fault codes set in your system and in your configuration, and be alerted when something goes wrong. In this case, you want to be able to pull that in and get real-time information so you can protect that ROI that you showed your customer. What I'm going to do now is just show you a couple diagnostic issues that we've seen with inverters, and these are all sent in from our clients. I'm just going to go over these quickly to give you an idea of what you would see. Typical 100 kilowatt system, 4 inverters. You can see those down here, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all exactly the same, so they all should be following on this same green line. This big area here is the total production, and then these smaller lines show the individual inverter production. In this case, you can see that one inverter is not performing as well as the other. So this would require a maintenance check on that inverter and possibly a replacement. You just have to look into that. What you do is in the eGauge setup, you would set an alert to notify you if production dropped below a certain value. That way you're going to be notified right when that happens, and you can take action, which will then allow you to protect that return on investment. You can see here, same type of thing, multiple inverters, all very similar. You can tell with this section here that the array is rather large, and certain inverters are going to get sun earlier, and certain are going to catch that peak a little bit later, but they all max out at the same. And now you can actually delve in by just choosing which inverter you want to look at in this register area down below and see what exactly is causing this dip. Every time you have these dips, you're changing the ROI of that system. So you want to make sure you stay on top of those. We had this one sent in by a customer that noticed some serious drop-off in his production. Here you can see that normally this would be a nice bell curve, all full, but because of this dirty filter, which is a very inexpensive part, his production changed precipitously. So he got out there right away, fixed that, and moved on to some other systems. More inverter failures here. Normally with inverters, if you only get 15-minute data, they're going to round off these inverter drops and shutdowns. Whereas the eGauge, because we can do second-by-second data, you can zoom into what's called the 10-minute view right here and look specifically at these drop-offs and see, okay, it looks like the inverter is capping, shutting off completely for 5 minutes, cycling, going back on, running for the same amount of time, and then shutting off again throughout the day. Definitely something that needs to be checked out. So with this eGauge data, you're protecting the asset, you're maintaining that ROI for that system, and you're ensuring that you are providing what you said you're going to provide during that proposal. Best case scenario is that you can show your customer how well their system is performing. This is a 100 kilowatt DC on a tracker, and it's getting just about as much power as you can get out of that PV system, other than some clouds in the middle of the day. It's ramping up nicely in the morning. The tracker's working perfectly, and it's ending the day very nicely as well. Great way to follow up with your customers and show them that the system is actually performing as you scoped it out. We looked at this one a little bit earlier. As you guys all know, with PV, you can cover the actual kilowatt hour cost on these systems, but you don't necessarily do anything with that demand charge. This building has quite a lot of demand spikes, and you can see these in these reds. With the E-Gauge, you can track that 15-minute demand charge, and you can design additional products and offerings, whether it be battery storage or demand management, with that customer. And when you do that, you're going to need somebody like John at Extensible Energy to help you with that program. Basically, that's going to allow you to bring more value to the system that has been installed. It's going to increase the ROI. And John, I think it's your time to show these guys how you can help them with that.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate the nice setup there, Jeff. I will ask the audience one more time to go ahead and use the Q&A, because I see we have a really lively set of questions going on in the chat where everybody is answering each other's questions. And, you know, I love the solar community. Solar community loves to help each other out. But if you have specific questions for each of our presenters, please use the Q&A and we'll get to those in just a few minutes. I'm gonna grab that and present that. So everybody see my screen? So now you've done it. You've got a brilliantly designed PV system and a brilliantly monitored PV system. And I want to talk about a third idea that may be new to some folks, which is how the building should operate once that PV system is installed. And I know we usually talk about the attributes of solar systems, but I'm going to talk just a little bit about buildings and how small changes in operations in the building can make a big improvement to PV project economics. And to see why, I want to just take a minute to take a look at what's going on with changes coming and changes that are already here in electric utility tariffs. Because of course, the way we all save our customers money is by saving money on their electricity bill. So we're going to focus specifically on how these tariff changes pose challenges, the economics of solar projects, and how the really smart commercial solar project developers are using technology to address those challenges today. So here's an example from our home state of California. This is Southern California Edison's rate design. It's a lot to take in, but just look at the two numbers that I've circled. You can either pick, as a commercial customer, very high summer on-peak demand charges or very high summer on-peak energy charges. You can go with option D, rate D, or rate E. D for high demand charge, E for high energy charge. But neither of these is very friendly to the solar provider, because all of these are based on a time of use period where the highest rates are from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. after, as Jeff was just showing, the solar production is either past its peak or zero. And so if you can reorganize your usage patterns slightly so that there is more usage during the time when rates are cheaper and solar is cranking, then you have a greatly improved set of project economics. We'll get into that. This is not a California problem. This is all over the country. Demand charges are rising. NREL does a great job of tracking them. So does Energy Toolbase, and so does Genability. And there's lots of folks who are tracking tariffs all over the country. But the fact is, we're seeing inquiries from Minnesota, Michigan, Utah, Colorado, Florida, North and South Carolina, New York, New Jersey. The problem is quite pervasive that demand charges are a serious problem for solar project economics. And it's obvious why, if you think of how buildings really operate. Here's a real building in California, and it's got a nice big solar system on it, and it's saving a lot of energy. As you can plainly see, it's selling back to the grid every weekend, and then, using more than the solar produces during the day. But if you look out, of course, at the end of the month, you see something weird. So what happened here? This building was using no energy to speak of over a long weekend. So the energy management system, which was working perfectly, mind you, was saying, I'm conserving energy, I'm saving my owner some money. And yet it was a hot 3-day weekend, and the building got very warm inside. And then it turned everything on at once and set a new peak demand for the month that represents over $1,000 a month of unnecessary costs. And this is with solar already on the building. So solar has saved this building owner a lot on the energy portion of the bill, but nothing on the demand portion of the bill, and the building owner is displeased. So surely there's a better solution. We call our solution DemandX, which teaches buildings how to learn from the past, predict the future, and give better building control in the present. And it's a practical way to take the usage of the building and synchronize it better with the solar output of that building. And the result is basically a virtual battery that uses the flexible loads within the building as a way to rearrange usage patterns. Now, this is all easy to say, challenging to do. We've tried to make this as simple as possible for our solar installation partners to bring to the end customer, right along with the brilliantly designed and monitored solar system we were just talking about. With a one-day installation, you can make small changes to the controls in the building so that the energy using subsystems in the building, be they a battery or car chargers behind the meter or HVAC systems, you can change the usage pattern so it matches better with the solar output and eliminate those demand charges that that Jeff was just showing you on that last graph, and really improve the project economics that you can present to your customers in a quote. If this sounds like a battery, it is like a battery. It's a virtual battery made from software that costs about 1/10 what a physical battery would, with no permits, no fire suppression, no master electricians, no critical load panels, no rewiring of the facility. It's just very small changes to the energy using patterns of the big loads in the building. And what we're looking to talk to here is folks who are interested more in being energy problem solvers than just panel sales, right? So the changes in the utility tariffs are driving this whole commercial solar ecosystem away from the ability to do solar only solutions and towards solar plus something, solar plus batteries, solar plus energy management, like we were just talking about, solar plus energy efficiency projects. Any of those things help your customer get a faster payback, higher return on their projects than solar alone. Here's a church that we did with one of our solar partners in the Central Valley of California, where it gets very hot. And you can see the before and after load profiles of the site. Of course, this particular church has Wednesday evening services. So even though they have solar, it's not helping very much because the services start at 6 or 6:30 p.m. And the church has been heating up all day, and all of the air conditioning, again, has to come on at once to take care of the very significant loads in the buildings there. And batteries were far out of their price range. So we put our little gateway that talks to their air conditioners in the building and our software in the cloud, which controls the usage patterns. We began pre-cooling before the services, but not, of course, with 100% of the air conditioning. So we modified the use of the existing flexible loads and came up with a 51 kW drop in their demand charges, which was in this case over 30%, which really helped. And by the way, we were using eGauge as the monitoring system that helped drive this whole solution. In a typical commercial building that we see these days, you might be able to get a PV system with something like a 6.5 year payback. But if you add the ability to save not just on energy, but on demand charges, you can reduce that from a maybe sale to a definitely sale by taking it down below 5 years, in some cases down to 4.5 or 4 years. This is all based on very small changes of usage patterns in the building with a system that can be installed in a single day. So we're working with partners today who really dig in to the load shape of their individual prospects, understand the equipment and customer requirements, and can deliver technology to shift those shapes favorably. So we are a 100% partner-driven business. We do not go direct to any of these buildings. We only go through you guys, our solar developer and installation partners. Please hit us up, www.extensibleenergy.com. We can tell you lots more. Now, I'm gonna put that up and see what we've got for questions in our queue. So I saw a number of questions in the chat.
Yeah, I can answer a few of the earlier
Yeah,
questions.
some of the earlier ones in particular, right? If you would, because some of these were directed at your
Yeah,
your solution, Olivia, and I know Daniel's in there answering as we go. So go ahead and tell the whole audience.
Yeah, so there were a few questions about, what kind of computers our software works with. PV Sketch works with anything. It's web-based, so any computer with internet. PVCAD does require a Windows operating system. So it can be a Mac or a Windows computer, but your operating system has to be Windows. So you can use Boot Camp or any other kind of parallel system if you're on a Mac. Pertaining a little bit more to different feature sets, one question was, how can we provide fire setbacks using PV Sketch? Once you draw the roof, on the right-hand side, there's an entire slew of roof characteristics you can input, including roof height, roof setbacks. They can be by specific edges as well. So it's a pretty intuitive tool in PV Sketch. So you just select the roof and be able to input all of that information. And I think there was one other question about energy modeling. So all of our energy modeling is coming from PV Watts. So PV Watts is a well-known, long-standing tool. It's pretty simplified. It's looking at module production and nameplate ratings for the module that you've selected, and your weather based on your location. So both PV Sketch and PVCAD are using that same energy modeling system, PV Watts by NREL. I think there might have been one more for us. Can you work with different size modules at the same time? A little bit more nuanced detail. You can selectively generate layouts for different roof faces. So if you want different modules and different roof faces, you can do that. If you're looking to mix and match modules on a specific roof, it would be pretty difficult to do that with PV Sketch or PVCAD. I mean, there are workarounds where you could generate on a different roof and move them around, but generally speaking, it's made to auto-generate layouts one module type at a time. Hopefully that answers that question. And from there, it looks like some of the questions dive into Jeff and John's area.
Okay. So I see one for us that is, what type of buildings are best for demand X? And really, since we can control most any flexible loads, it's fine in any building with a battery or a building with car chargers or other things behind the meter. But for HVAC systems, which is by far the largest flexible load in the commercial space, we look at office, retail, church, school, conditioned warehouse, municipal building, and other buildings where HVAC is the largest type of load. We also have a question that just came in about, do we offer the DemandX solution for Mexico, and does the system work with Mexico's tariffs? We have not sold it yet in Mexico. It is an English-only system, but it will work with Mexico's tariffs. So there's no reason we could not. We don't have a distributor in Mexico. Give us a shout. We can work something out. There's a question for Jeff. Do you integrate with SolarEdge or TIGO data monitoring, and how does eGauge work with these monitoring systems?
Yes, we can integrate with any of the inverter manufacturers. When you're looking at optimizers and module level inverters, you won't necessarily get the module level. You'll rely on SolarEdge and TIGO for that data, but you will get you can get the grouped production or the total production from that system. And the nice thing about it is that you will have third-party verification on that inverter production, and you will have another layer of notification if something does go wrong. So it's a great way to foolproof when you do have an issue, and you'll be able to take care of that issue quicker. Olivia, I did see another question about PV Sketch. The question was, it's a free version that then feeds into PVC Add, which is the paid version. Do you see that one?
Yeah, I do see that one. So that's talking a little bit about trials versus how our subscriptions work. So PV Sketch and PVCAD are separate tools, so you can mix and match. They do communicate with each other. PV Sketch has a free account level, so you can sign up for free, and it gives you just a handful of projects a month to test it out. And then you can opt to subscribe for a monthly fee based on how many projects per month you need to design. PVCAD is separate. It has a free 30-day trial. So separately, you can download that and try that for 30 days. And then again, it's also a flat rate subscription fee per month. So both are SaaS model subscriptions, but they're separate, and they both have, ways that you can start for free.
Speaking of pricing, there's a price question for extensible energy, and really it's just based on the savings for any particular project. And basically, if we save the customer $1, we keep 33 cents. And so does it add to the project cost? It adds no more than a third of the value it's creating. So it adds both cost and value, and makes the payback times faster and the internal rate of return faster. On a typical building, you can think of this as, for a 5-year deal in the building that I showed just now is probably about, adds 20,000 to the total project cost of a 200 kW system. So it's usually less than 5% of the total cost of a project, delivering disproportionately more savings.
I saw one other question here that I think is for PV Complete. What is the maximum single PV plant capacity that can be simulated? So there's no system size cap in PVCAD, and there's a hard cap of 3 megawatts in PV Sketch, which should, for the most part, hopefully cover all different size commercial projects. in PV CAD, while there's no hard cap, once you get to 5 megawatts, maybe 10 megawatts, you'll just see a slowdown of processing because it has to place a lot of modules. At that point, you're really in utility scale solar, and we have a different set of tools specific to utility scale solar. So short answer is PV Sketch and PV CAD should be able to handle small through large scale commercial projects.
Okay, so, all right. So there's a question for us that says, is there a way to predict what the savings will be? Absolutely. We can predict it better with more refined data. So we love the, sort of monitoring first model that, that Jeff pointed out, but we can also use 15-minute interval data from smart meters, either from Utility API or Green Button or any of the other ways to get utility data back from each customer. We can run that through, we use any of the popular sales tools. We use Energy Toolbase quite a bit, but we've used the other ones too to estimate what the savings will be. And so there's another question about that says, if Extensible gets a third, is that residual income? And does the sale and installing partner get a share? Yeah, we actually have really good what we call distributor-friendly pricing. So we should talk. Whoever sent that question in, of course, the solar partners get to mark that up as part of their total package that they're delivering to the customer. We can talk about that offline.
I see one more question for eGauge.
Yep.
The question was 2 questions for Jeff. Do you have a product for residential customers? And if so, what is the pricing like? We do. We actually can use the same meter for either residential or commercial. So it's very simple for the installers or designers to pick the meter. The CTs or the current transducers would be a different size, but otherwise it's the same. And the pricing is similar because it's actually the same meter. So we do have volume pricing, but the meters range anywhere from $400 up to $800, depending on the size of the meter and the amount of loads that you're going to cover. And then the accessories like the CTs or the communication methods can range anywhere from $50 for a Wi-Fi adapter, $300 for a cellular router, cellular plans you can add on as well. So it just really depends on what specific you'll need for that installation. There was an add-on to that. Where does the eGauge connect? It's typically
I fear we may have lost Jeff's connection there.
Oh no.
So I see another question about whether there
or
we go.
both.
Jeff, could you repeat that? We lost you for a second.
Oh, sorry about that. The question was about where the eGauge connects. It connects at the main panel or a sub-panel of that building. The CTs would go around the conductor of the inverter coming into that panel to where it's protected with a breaker, or they would go around the conductor coming from the utility to measure the total consumption.
So, and a related question is, are we all integrated together? Certainly we're integrated with eGauge. We recommend eGauge on all of the installations where we're helping our partners specify our systems. It's not required, but it is our preferred data acquisition tool. And the design step is usually somewhat separate. So we are huge fans of PV Complete, but have not integrated our software with PV Complete.
Yes, our companies have been longtime friends, but we are kind of in a separate space when it comes to PV. So we're not directly integrated with each other.
So that's all the questions I see. And I think we will give you all 7 minutes of your day back. So unless anybody has any closing comments, I just want to thank everyone for attending this webinar, for participating so vigorously, both in the Q&A and in the chat where everybody's been answering everybody else's questions, which is fantastic. And hope we can do this again soon. Jeff, Olivia, any closing comments?
I think I did just want to say something. I know a lot of us are working remote right now, and there's been some forecasting on what's going to happen with solar moving forward. With the global pandemic and everything like that. And I think this webinar was just really well positioned to give you guys tools to handle what's to come. In a lot of instances, people are trying to find resources that allow them to go virtual and keep pushing with solar. And all the companies spoke to, we're all pretty lucky that solar, while there's been some slowdown in installation, the industry is still moving forward and growing. And so it's really just a matter of finding the tools that help you adapt to doing things more virtually. And all three products that all three of us have talked about today, I think really fills your tool belt with those resources to help take what's ever to come next head on. So yeah, I just want to thank Jeff and John for help putting this together and providing our commercial installers a whole suite of products that really give you virtual tool base for all sides of commercial design, monitoring, and management.
Yeah, thanks for those comments, Olivia. I just want to add that especially now, we are seeing a shift in how power is used throughout the day, residentially and commercially, and it's very prescient to know how that shift is affecting the utility bills. So pulling in somebody like Extensible on the back end can really help out with that. And I think these three companies together can really help everybody make a standout presentation moving forward. So thanks again for all of your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, so thanks everybody. Please share with the rest of your team and with your colleagues, and please hit any of our three participants up with any remaining questions, and have a great rest of your day.